The twin suns of Virella 9 burned bright over the grand alien marketplace. Thousands of species filled the air with voices, smells, and colors. Traders shouted in dozens of languages, machines hummed, and bright holograms danced over the stalls. In the middle of that chaos stood a young human named Evan, a cleaner. He had come from Earth 6 months ago, one of the few humans allowed to work on this planet. Most aliens ignored him. Some even laughed when they saw him sweeping the marble floor with a bucket of soap and water. Humans were rare here, and almost nobody trusted them. Evan didn't care. He liked to keep the market clean. It reminded him of home, his mother's old shop back in a quiet corner of Earth. He whistled softly as he worked, pushing his mop around alien feet and tails. Then the air changed. A deep growl rolled through the crowd. Every alien froze. A creature the size of a hover truck entered the plaza, dragging thick chains behind it. Its skin was dark blue, its eyes bright gold, its breath steaming in the hot air. Spikes ran down its spine, and its long tail knocked over a cart of glowing fruit. The crowd backed away in panic. Behind it walked Princess Noreen, tall, elegant, and cold as glass. Her purple skin shimmered under her silver armor, and her eyes glowed faintly. Everyone bowed. Even Evan stopped his mop and watched. He had never seen anything like that beast before. The aliens called it a sentinel, a creature bred for war. It had claws sharp enough to slice stone, and yet it followed the princess like a loyal dog. But today, the beast seemed restless. Its nostrils flared, and it shook its head, annoyed by the heat and noise. Noreen spoke to it softly in her native tongue, but the creature ignored her command. With a sudden roar, it turned and stepped into the public fountain, the very one Evan had just cleaned. Water splashed everywhere, soaking aliens and goods alike. A merchant screamed as his fabrics got wet. Another dropped his food trays in panic. The princess raised her hand, shouting an order, but the sentinel kept splashing, its thick tail sweeping through the water like a storm. Evan sighed. "Seriously," he muttered. "Now I've got to clean all that again." Without thinking, he walked forward with his bucket. The aliens gasped. "Is that human insane?" someone whispered. "He's walking toward the royal beast," another cried. The beast turned its golden eyes toward him. Its growl shook the fountain's edge. Evan stopped just a few feet away, heart pounding, but he didn't back down. He had seen angry animals before back on Earth, dogs, bulls, even one escaped zoo lion when he worked near the city. The trick, he remembered, was not to show fear. He dipped his brush in the soapy water and looked up at the beast. "You made a real mess, buddy," he said gently. "Mind if I help you clean up?" The creature blinked. It tilted its huge head, confused. The princess stared in disbelief. Then Evan slowly reached out and rubbed the creature's muddy flank with the brush. Thick bubbles spread across its skin. Instead of attacking, the beast made a low rumbling sound, almost like a cat purring. The market went silent. Every alien stared. He kept cleaning, brushing the beast's side, humming a small earth tune. The sentinel relaxed. Its tail stopped thrashing. It lowered its head into the water, eyes half closed. Noreen took a step forward, her voice sharp. "Stop! You will anger it." But her words trembled. The impossible was happening before her eyes. Evan smiled faintly. "See? He just needed a bath." The beast snorted a small cloud of bubbles that floated toward her feet. Some aliens laughed nervously. Others looked terrified. Noreen's face burned with confusion and fury. No one had ever touched her sentinel and lived. Its loyalty was supposed to belong only to her bloodline. And yet here it was, calm, docile, even happy, because of a human. She lifted her arm. "Guards!" 2 armored soldiers moved in, weapons humming with blue light. They grabbed Evan roughly by the arms. "You dare touch royal property," one hissed. Evan looked between them, shocked. "I was just trying to help. Look, he's calm now." The beast roared, shaking the ground. The guards froze. The creature's golden eyes glowed fiercely as it stepped between Evan and the princess's soldiers. Everyone stopped breathing. The beast lowered its head in front of Evan, almost protectively. The guard stumbled back, afraid to shoot. Princess Noreen's eyes widened. "It's defending him," she whispered. For the first time, she felt fear, not for herself, but for what this could mean. A creature bred to obey royal command had chosen to protect a foreign human. That was not just strange, it was dangerous. The crowd began to murmur. The sentinel obeys the human, is he some kind of tamer? Maybe the old prophecy. Noreen silenced them with a sharp glare, but she couldn't take her eyes off Evan. Who was this man? What had he done to her beast? The wind carried the scent of soap and foam through the market. Evan stood still, his heart racing, trying to understand what he had just done. The beast gently nudged his shoulder, like a friend waiting for another stroke. And far above, hidden drones recorded everything, the moment a simple human cleaner washed the royal sentinel and changed the course of two species forever. The marketplace still smelled of soap and fear. Hours had passed, but the rumor had already spread across the city of Verella. A human had tamed the royal sentinel. From the high tower of her palace, Princess Noreen watched the recordings on a floating hologram. Her jaw clenched. The scene replayed again and again, the human kneeling by her beast, scrubbing it with his small hands, humming a ridiculous tune. The sentinel's eyes were soft, calm, obedient to him. Her advisors stood silent behind her. No one dared speak first. Finally, one of them, a scaled alien with 3 eyes, said carefully, "Your Highness, the Council demands an explanation. If the creature has shifted its loyalty, it might threaten your throne." Noreen's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "The creature is mine. Nothing changes that." But deep inside, she wasn't sure. The sentinel had refused to eat, refused to move, until it was near the human again. It was unnatural. Impossible. And yet, she had seen it with her own eyes. "Bring the human to me," she ordered coldly. Evan didn't resist when the guards dragged him through the palace gates. He was still confused about what had happened. One minute he'd been cleaning, the next he was treated like a criminal. As he entered the throne chamber, his eyes widened. Everything shimmered, silver walls alive with faint blue veins of energy, alien statues carved from light itself. At the center sat Noreen, her long braid glowing softly, her skin like moonlight. She looked down at him with icy calm. "You dare touch my sentinel?" Evan blinked. "If you mean the big blue guy, yeah. He was dirty. And angry." Gasps echoed through the guards. No one ever spoke to her so casually. Her voice dropped lower. "That blue guy is sacred. It carries my royal bond. And you," she leaned forward, her eyes burning with fury, "you broke it." Evan raised his hands slowly. "Look, I didn't mean to break anything. I was just trying to help." "You helped by disobeying every law of my house," she snapped. Her words hit like thunder, echoing across the chamber. But the sentinel, chained beside her throne, growled softly, not at Evan, but at the guards holding him. Its eyes glowed, gold and alive. Noreen froze. Again, it was defending him. Her hand trembled before she hid it behind her back. The room filled with whispers. The beast's loyalty had changed. And in this empire, that was more dangerous than a rebellion. "Release him," she said suddenly. The guards hesitated. "Now!" They obeyed. Evan rubbed his wrists, staring in disbelief. "You're not gonna kill me?" She looked away, voice low. "Not yet." Later that night, the palace grew quiet. Noreen sat in her private chamber, staring at her reflection. She touched the side of her face where a bubble from the fountain had burst earlier that day. The faint scent of soap still lingered. It was strangely comforting. Her sentinel rested in the corner of the room. Its breathing was slow, peaceful. In all her life, she had never seen it so calm. She whispered softly in her language, "Why do you obey him?" The beast opened its eyes. For a moment, she thought she saw something, an emotion. Guilt? Gratitude? Noreen shook her head. "Impossible," she muttered. "It's just an animal." But deep down, a small part of her wondered, had the human changed it somehow? Meanwhile, in the lower servant quarters, Evan sat on a metal bench, staring at the strange alien ceiling. He replayed the day in his mind again and again, the roar, the foam, the princess's glare. He had seen fear in her eyes for just a second. Not anger. Fear. He leaned back inside. "I clean floors, not cause wars," he whispered to himself. The door hissed open. 2 guards entered silently and handed him a tray of glowing food. One guard spoke in a low tone. "The princess ordered this herself." Evan blinked. "The same princess who wanted to fry me alive." The guard said nothing, only stared at him for a moment longer before leaving. Evan looked at the tray. The smell was sweet, like sugar mixed with something floral. He smiled weakly. "Guess I'm not dead yet." He didn't notice the small floating drone in the corner, recording his every move and transmitting it straight to the princess's private screen. From her tower balcony, Noreen watched the moonlight spread across the city. She could still hear his voice in the recording, the casual tone, the softness when he spoke to her sentinel. "No fear. No arrogance. Just kindness." She whispered, "Why would a creature of chaos trust a human?" Her reflection in the glass answered silently, "Because humans were unpredictable. Because they did things without reason. Because they didn't follow rules." For the first time, Noreen felt something she couldn't name. Not anger. Not hatred. Something closer to curiosity. She turned to her beast. "If he can make you obey him," she said quietly, "perhaps he can make me understand why." The creature rumbled softly, as if agreeing. Noreen looked up at the stars, her eyes reflecting both fury and fascination. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "I will see what else this human can do." And far below, in the servant quarters, Evan closed his eyes, unaware that by morning, the most powerful alien on the planet would no longer want him dead, but wanted to study him. The next morning, the entire royal city buzzed like an electric storm. From the lowest servant to the highest commander, everyone whispered the same thing. The human lives. Evan didn't know it, but his small act at the fountain had spread beyond the market, beyond the walls, and reached the ears of the High Council. The story of a human calming a royal beast had become a scandal. Now, they demanded answers. The sound of marching boots echoed through the corridors as guards arrived to take Evan to the council hall, a vast domed chamber carved from black crystal, glowing faintly with alien light. He walked quietly between the soldiers, still trying to understand what was happening. "Did I really cause all this, with soap?" he muttered under his breath. When the doors opened, 1,000 alien eyes turned to him. Representatives from every world stood on floating platforms above a shimmering floor. At the center, surrounded by royal banners, sat Princess Noreen, her face unreadable. The chained sentinel lay beside her throne, breathing low and slow, its golden eyes following Evan's every step. The High Chancellor, a tall figure with skin like obsidian glass, rose and spoke. This human violated royal law. He touched the sacred sentinel and disturbed the bond of blood. His actions must be judged. The crowd murmured in agreement. But Noreen said nothing. Her gaze stayed on Evan, cold, yet searching. Evan took a breath. "I didn't mean to offend anyone," he said softly. "I saw an animal in pain. I helped it. That's all." The Chancellor's eyes flashed. "A beast of war needs no help from humans." At that, a deep growl filled the hall. The sound shook the very floor. The sentinel raised its head. Chains rattled. The guards tensed. Evan froze. He hadn't said a word, yet the creature reacted, defending him again. He stepped forward slowly, his voice calm. "Easy, big guy. It's okay." The sentinel's glow softened. It lowered its head, rumbling softly like a purr. Gasps spread through the hall. The alien representatives leaned forward, whispering in disbelief. The Chancellor shouted, "Restrain the beast." But before the guards could move, the impossible happened. The sentinel broke its chains. In a burst of motion and light, it stomped across the crystal floor, straight toward Evan. Weapons powered up, and the guards aimed at its heart. Princess Noreen rose from her throne, shouting, "Hold your fire." The massive creature stopped inches from Evan. It sniffed him once, then bowed. Its massive head touched the floor beside his feet. The chamber fell silent. Every alien in the room knew what that meant. A royal sentinel, created through centuries of genetic ritual, bowed only to those it chose to serve. And it had chosen a human. Evan looked confused. What's it doing?" Narine's voice trembled slightly, the first crack in her royal control. It's pledging itself. To me. Her eyes locked with his. To you. The Chancellor's voice thundered again. This cannot be allowed. A human cannot bond with royal blood. But no one could deny what they saw. The sentinel ignored its creator and stood beside the human, ready to kill for him. Narine walked down from her throne, her long robes brushing against the shining floor. The hall parted as she approached. She stopped in front of Evan, her expression torn between anger and awe. "What are you?" she whispered. "Just a janitor," he said quietly. The simplicity of that answer stunned her. For a moment, her lips almost curved into a smile, but she caught herself. "This is not over," she said sharply. "The council will decide your fate. Until then, you are under my watch." The Chancellor protested. He must be executed before the creature's bond strengthens. But Narine turned to him, her voice cold as ice. "And risk enraging my sentinel further? Do you wish to explain that to the Emperor?" The Chancellor fell silent. No one defied a royal threat. Moments later, guards led Evan out of the chamber, but this time, no one dared touch him. The sentinel followed close behind, massive steps echoing like thunder. Outside, sunlight poured across the palace courtyard. The alien crowd watched in stunned silence as the beast walked beside a human like a loyal dog. Some bowed their heads. Others hissed curses. But everyone understood, the world had shifted that day. From a balcony above, Narine watched them. The golden reflection of the beast shimmered in her eyes. Something had begun, something no law could stop. Her advisor spoke softly. "Your Highness, this could destroy your legacy." She replied, almost to herself, "or rewrite it." That night, in the quiet of her private garden, she stood beside the chained sentinel once more. It refused to rest until Evan was brought to sleep in the same quarters nearby. It needed his presence. She reached out, touching its horned head. "You defy me for a human," she said bitterly. "Why?" The creature blinked slowly. A faint hum vibrated in the air, soft, melodic, familiar. The same tune the human had hummed at the fountain. Narine's breath caught. The resonance reached into her skin, gentle, warm, alive. It was as if the song carried emotion itself, an ancient language older than words. And in that moment, for the first time in her royal life, Princess Narine felt something no machine or empire had ever taught her. Peace. The palace slept beneath a purple sky. Twin moons floated above like silent watchers, their light sliding through the tall glass corridors. Everything was calm, except inside Princess Narine's chamber, where she stood staring at her sentinel. The beast was restless. Even with its new silver bindings, it refused to stay still unless it could see the human. Every time she sent it away from Evan's quarters, it would roar until the walls trembled. No royal control worked anymore. The bond was broken. And yet, deep inside her anger, something unexpected stirred, curiosity. The next day, Narine ordered the human to appear in her laboratory. The room glowed with violet energy fields and humming crystal panels. Thousands of floating runes rotated above a glass floor that reflected galaxies. Evan stepped inside, eyes wide. "Wow, this looks like a spaceship inside a science museum." Her cold gaze met his. "It is a laboratory, not a museum." She motioned to the glowing scanner chair. "Sit." Evan scratched the back of his neck. "You're not gonna, dissect me or anything, right?" "Not yet," she replied flatly. He froze. She almost smiled at his expression, but didn't. She moved her fingers across the console, scanning his body. The readings flickered with strange results. His DNA patterns glowed red and gold, unstable, human. But beneath them, a hidden resonance pulsed through every cell, soft and rhythmic. "What is that?" she whispered. "What is what?" Evan asked. "That vibration," she said. "Your cells, they sing." He blinked. "Maybe you're hearing my stomach. I skipped breakfast." Her jaw tightened, but inside, she almost laughed. Almost. She leaned closer, eyes shining. "When you touch the sentinel, its biofield adjusted to your resonance. That's why it obeyed." You changed its emotional frequency. I didn't change anything, he said softly. I just gave it a bath. She studied him quietly. Humans, always making the universe sound simple. Later that evening, she led him to the palace fountain, the same one from the market. Now it was quiet, cleaned, surrounded by glowing plants. The air smelled faintly of soap. I need to see it, she said. Do what you did before. Evan looked confused. You mean, wash your monster again? Her eyes flashed. He's not a monster. Evan smiled gently. Didn't mean to offend, princess. The sentinel emerged from the shadows, lowering its massive body into the fountain. Its golden eyes fixed on him. The water shimmered as he dipped his hands into the foam. He began to hum again, the same tune. Soft. Peaceful. Human. The beast relaxed immediately. Its muscles loosened, its heartbeat slowed. Then something strange happened. The water around them began to glow faintly, blue and silver ripples forming patterns like living art. Symbols rose from the surface, ancient alien runes that even Noreen didn't recognize. She stepped closer, whispering, "Those are royal blood sigils." The air vibrated. The song continued, low and steady. The fountain itself started to hum with life, echoing his tune. Evan looked up, worried. Is it supposed to do that? No, she breathed. It's not supposed to do anything. The light reflected on her face, and for a moment, she wasn't a princess, she was just a woman, watching something beautiful and impossible unfold before her eyes. When the glow faded, silence filled the room. The sentinel lay calm, eyes half-closed in peace. Evan wiped sweat from his forehead. Well, I guess he's clean again. Noreen stared at the glowing residue left in the water. Her scanners picked up traces of resonance that matched her own royal bloodline. The creature's loyalty wasn't stolen, it had been shared. Her voice softened. You've created a harmony between human and royal genetics. He looked lost. I just used soap. She shook her head slowly. No. You used kindness. Later, as she walked through the quiet hallways, her mind spun with thoughts she could not voice. For centuries, her people had considered humans primitive, emotionally chaotic, weak, unrefined. But this human had done something their greatest scientists couldn't, he had made emotion itself a power. At the same time, she began noticing strange changes within herself. Her hands trembled sometimes. Her heart skipped when he spoke. And every night, when she tried to sleep, she could still hear that human song echoing in her mind. In the lower quarters, Evan sat beside the sentinel, brushing its thick fur. You know, he said, I think your boss is starting to hate me a little less. The beast rumbled quietly, as if amused. He smiled. Don't tell her I said that. From a balcony above, hidden in the shadows, Noreen watched them. For the first time in her life, she didn't see a servant and a beast, she saw a connection. Something her empire had never understood, that peace doesn't always come from power, sometimes it comes from care. And as the night wind carried the faint scent of soap through the air, she whispered to herself, perhaps the human way isn't weakness at all. The sentinel looked up suddenly, its golden eyes glowing faintly toward her. For a heartbeat, she could swear it smiled. By the next solar cycle, the story had escaped the palace walls. Across Varela Nine's floating cities and desert colonies, whispers spread like fire. A human touched the royal beast. A human sang the sentinel calm. The princess allows him to live. To the common aliens, it was gossip. To the nobles, it was heresy. To Princess Noreen, it was something she could no longer explain. She stood before the council mirror, a tall sheet of living glass that reflected her thoughts. Each time she said the human's name, Evan, the mirror flickered, showing not weakness but a pulse of light that matched her heartbeat. Her people called that reaction resonant contamination. She called it something far worse, curiosity. The door hissed open. Her advisor, Lord Drix, entered with a bowed head. His scaled skin shimmered green beneath the lights. Your Highness, he said cautiously, the court grows uneasy. They say the sentinel follows the human's orders more than yours. And what do you say, Drix? She asked. He hesitated. I say, the creature's loyalty is the foundation of your rule. If it has shifted, then so has power itself. Nareen turned away, her eyes narrowing. Power can shift without destroying. Drix's tone hardened. Not when the shift begins with a human. Meanwhile, in the lower training yard, Evan knelt beside the sentinel, brushing its massive fur with calm strokes. The alien guards kept their distance, watching him like a dangerous experiment that might explode at any moment. "Hey," Evan said softly to the beast, "you've got more admirers than I do now." The creature rumbled, amused, and lowered its head. He glanced up at the distant balcony. He knew she was there, Princess Nareen, half hidden behind the energy glass, watching him again. She had watched him every day since the fountain test. He didn't understand why, but he didn't mind. There was something about her silence that wasn't cold anymore. It was curious. Alive. That night, she summoned him again, not to the laboratory this time, but to the royal garden. Moonlight spilled across silver plants that glowed when touched. The air was soft, scented with sweet mist. Evan looked around. "Okay, this is officially the prettiest prison I've ever been in." She almost smiled. "You speak too freely for a servant." He shrugged. "Maybe you listen too seriously for a queen." Her eyes met his, and for the first time, she laughed, a real laugh, brief and surprised. The sound echoed through the glowing vines. It startled both of them. "Teach me that," she said quietly. "Teach you what?" "That thing you just made. That sound of joy." He chuckled. "It's called laughter. Comes free with being human." Her gaze softened. "Your kind confuses me. You turn pain into songs, fear into humor. Even beasts respond to it." "Maybe because we're small," he said. "We have to make big feelings to survive big worlds." Something changed in her eyes then, something warm, something dangerous. She stepped closer, the light painting her skin with silver fire. "You risk death and still make jokes. Perhaps that's your species' true weapon." "Maybe it's soap," he said with a grin. She rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth curved upward. Days passed. The princess began meeting him in secret. They walked the garden together, sharing quiet words. She showed him her world, the crystals that stored memories, the stars her ancestors had conquered, the songs written in alien tongues. In return, he taught her simple things: the taste of chocolate, the smell of rain, the meaning of the word home. And slowly, something no law allowed began to grow between them. But the palace had ears. In the High Court, Lord Drix knelt before the Chancellor, his voice low. The human contaminates her mind. The sentinel obeys him, and soon the princess will too. The Chancellor's glass skin gleamed red with fury. Then the cure is simple. Remove the disease. That night, Nareen stood on her balcony, the wind cold against her face. Her communicator pulsed, an encrypted message from the council. "The human will be taken for study. Your approval is not required." Her heart stopped. She looked down at the training yard, where Evan sat by the sleeping beast. The moons bathed him in gentle light. Something inside her shattered. For years she had believed herself above emotion. Royal. Rational. Perfect. Now, all she felt was fear. She rushed down the corridor, her steps echoing. Guards tried to stop her, but the sentinel's roar shook the palace before she could even speak. The creature sensed danger. It rose, claws scraping stone, eyes burning gold. Drix and the soldiers appeared, armed with stun lances. "Stand aside, princess. The council has decreed." "Decreed?" she hissed. "Over my authority. This is for your safety." Her voice rose, fierce and trembling. "He is under my protection." At that moment, Evan appeared behind the beast, confusion on his face. "What's going on?" Before anyone could answer, a guard fired a pulse. The bolt struck the sentinel's flank. It screamed, a sound of pure agony, and collapsed. "No!" Nareen cried. She knelt beside the creature, pressing her glowing hands to its wound. Her tears mixed with alien light. Evan dropped to his knees opposite her, his hands trembling. "Stay with us, buddy, stay." The creature's pulse weakened. Then, barely audible, A faint hum filled the air. The same melody he always sang. The sentinel's eyes flickered. It looked at both of them and glowed. The light spread, covering them in warmth, binding princess, human, and beast in a halo of sound and color that reached the sky. The guards stumbled back, shielding their eyes. When the light faded, the sentinel still breathed. Alive. And Noreen, shaking, whispered the words no one in her bloodline had ever said before. From this moment, his fate is mine. The palace that once glowed with peace now shook under the weight of fear. Every hall buzzed with rumor, every screen flashed the same breaking broadcast. The princess defied the council for a human. The story had escaped even the system's walls. Across 10 worlds, alien citizens whispered about the forbidden bond, how a royal beast had chosen a human, and how a princess had shielded him from her own kind. For the first time in her reign, Princess Noreen felt what no ruler should, being hunted by her own throne. In the High Council chamber, silver flames burned along the walls. The air shimmered with power. Evan stood in chains at the center of a circular platform. The sentinel was locked behind an energy cage, growling softly, watching him with fierce golden eyes. Above them, hundreds of alien dignitaries sat like judges of gods. At the highest seat sat High Chancellor Vorak, his crystalline skin pulsing red with anger. "Human," he thundered, "you have infected royal command. You have endangered an empire with your presence. Do you have anything to say before your sentence is read?" Evan raised his head slowly. His voice was steady. "I only washed a dirty animal." A ripple of whispers ran through the chamber. Vorak slammed his staff. "Mockery will not save you. You will be executed at dusk." Noreen rose from her throne on the upper level. "No!" Her voice echoed like thunder. The entire hall turned to her. The air seemed to bend beneath her fury. "This man's only crime is compassion. You call it weakness, but it healed what our power never could." Vorak sneered. "You've been compromised by human emotion. Do you not see how their kind spreads corruption?" She stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter. "No, Chancellor. I see how our kind spreads fear." Gasps rippled through the court. No one had ever spoken to him that way. "Remove her," Vorak ordered. Guards approached, but the sentinel's roar shattered the air. Its cage cracked. Chains burst. Blue fire erupted as it leapt forward, smashing through the energy field. Screams filled the chamber. Evan stumbled backward as the beast placed itself between him and the guards. Its body shimmered with strange runes, the same ones that had appeared in the fountain's foam days before. They glowed like living music. Noreen reached his side, pulling him behind her. "Don't move," she whispered. "Not planning to," he said, half smiling even now. Vorak raised his staff. "Destroy the creature. Destroy them both." A dozen guards fired plasma bolts. But as the first beam struck, it hit something invisible. A shimmering barrier formed from the foam of the creature's own saliva, glowing white and gold. The blasts dissolved like smoke. Evan stared in shock. "Is that soap?" Noreen's lips parted. "It's energy transmutation. It's turning light into matter. It's impossible." The sentinel roared again, and the foam spread wider, wrapping around them in a circle of shimmering bubbles that pulsed with each heartbeat. Inside, it was calm. Outside, chaos reigned. Noreen turned to Evan, her voice trembling. "They will never stop." He nodded. "Then don't let them win." Her eyes searched his, human, fragile, full of defiance. Something in her chest broke open, and for the first time, she truly smiled. "I used to believe strength was control," she said quietly. "Now I think strength is mercy." She pressed her palm to the sentinel's flank, merging her royal energy with its bond. The runes spread up her arm, glowing brighter, fusing her life force with the creature's. Evan tried to stop her. "Noreen, that'll kill you." "It will free us," she whispered. The chamber filled with blinding light. The foam rose into the air like snow, swirling in silence. Each bubble held an image: humans helping aliens, aliens laughing with humans, children of both species side by side. The vision stunned everyone. Even Vorak hesitated, his red glow dimming. "Do you see?" she cried. This is what you fear, hope. Then the barrier collapsed. Energy scattered like starlight. Noreen fell to her knees, drained but alive. The sentinel, wounded but breathing, stood tall before her. Evan caught her before she fell. You can't keep doing this for me. Her hand touched his cheek gently. It's not for you. It's for what you remind me of. What's that? Humanity, she said softly. The thing we lost long ago. Guards surrounded them again, but none dared fire. The council was silent, watching the two figures bathed in light and foam. Vorak finally spoke, his tone shaking. Princess Noreen of the royal line, you are hereby stripped of your title. She looked up, unafraid. Then I am free. He pointed at Evan. And the human? She stood, voice calm, yet filled with unyielding fire. Where I go, he goes. The sentinel growled in agreement, its massive tail slamming the floor. No one dared move. The power of her words, her defiance, had broken the oldest chains of their civilization. As the guards lowered their weapons, Noreen turned to Evan. You wanted to clean my world, she said with a faint smile. I think you just did. Evan chuckled weakly. Guess I missed a few spots. And as the suns of Virella 9 rose beyond the glass dome, their light hit the remaining foam on the floor, turning it into a field of tiny glowing rainbows. For the first time in the Empire's history, beauty had come from soap, defiance, and love. The suns of Virella 9 rose slow and golden, painting the sky with ribbons of light. The palace, once a monument of fear and control, now stood quiet, half damaged from the battle of the night before. The air still smelled faintly of smoke and soap. Evan walked through the shattered courtyard, his boots brushing over marble dust and glowing puddles. In each small puddle, rainbow colors danced, the last traces of the sentinel's foam. Everywhere he looked, aliens watched him silently. No one mocked him now. No one laughed. They just stared, as if seeing a new kind of creature for the first time. Princess Noreen stood by the great fountain, the same one where it all began. The beast, her sentinel, lay beside her, alive but scarred. Its golden eyes glowed softly, watching the human who had changed everything. Evan approached quietly. You look tired, he said. She smiled faintly. Rulers do not admit tiredness. He chuckled. Good thing you're not a ruler anymore. She looked at him then, really looked. No crown, no armor, no guards. Just a woman who had finally set down 1,000 years of pride. You realize what you've done, don't you? She said softly. Made a mess. Changed a civilization. The alien crowd gathered around the square, whispering. Some knelt. Some stood in awe. Because the impossible had happened, their princess and a human stood side by side, washing the royal beast together. Evan dipped his hands into the fountain water and began to scrub gently. Noreen followed his motion, silent at first. Then, slowly, she smiled. Strange, she said. The universe taught us to conquer. You taught us to clean. Evan laughed. Guess every revolution starts with soap. Their hands moved together, rippling the water. The crowd watched as the foam rose, white, silver, then gold, reflecting the suns above. Children from different species leaned forward, wide-eyed. For the first time in memory, the people of Virella saw royalty not as power, but as care. High Chancellor Vorak watched from a distant balcony. Around him, the council murmured in fear. The people are with her now. What do we do? Vorak's crimson light dimmed. Nothing, he said quietly. The story has already been written. You cannot punish a song once it's sung. Back at the fountain, Evan looked down at the glowing foam. It's beautiful, he said. Like stars in water. Noreen dipped her fingers into it, letting the bubbles rise between them. Our world will change now. Some will hate you. Some will worship you. But all will remember. He shook his head. I'm not a hero. I just cleaned your pet. She tilted her head. Then maybe the galaxy needs more cleaners. He grinned. Good thing I'm hiring. They both laughed, their voices blending with the hum of the sentinel, which purred softly like thunder in peace. Later that evening, the marketplace where it all began reopened. The same merchants who once feared the sentinel now placed flowers around the fountain. Holographic banners shimmered with a single phrase in both alien and human language. Kindness conquers. Children ran through the streets, playing with bubbles that floated into the air. Some shaped like stars, some like tiny hearts. Every bubble carried faint energy, the remnant of the fusion between human compassion and alien power. The foam had become a symbol of unity. As the suns began to set, Evan and Noreen stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The sky glowed orange and violet. For a long while, neither spoke. Then she said, "My father once told me peace can only come through fear." "And now?" Evan asked. She smiled softly. "Now I think peace comes through understanding, and maybe a little soap." He chuckled. "I'll take credit for the soap part." The sentinel rumbled behind them, its massive head resting near their feet. The sound was soft, protective, almost proud. Night fell. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. The human who calmed the royal beast. The princess who chose peace over power. The day the empire learned to wash away its pride. But to Evan and Noreen, those weren't headlines. They were just memories, made of water, bubbles, and a strange, impossible friendship. She looked at him one last time before turning toward the stars. "You gave my people something they never had," she whispered. "A reason to believe again." He smiled. "And you gave me something I didn't know I needed." "What's that?" "Belonging." The wind carried the faint scent of soap through the air again. The fountain shimmered under starlight. And somewhere in the quiet distance, a voice, soft, human, familiar, began to hum the same tune that had started it all. The sentinel lifted its head, listening. Noreen closed her eyes. And for the first time in the long history of her world, she felt completely human.